We're like, let's see if this works. Let's get him to the finish line first and then see if it's even funny.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking that I was so dead set on like, we have to protect this guy. By the end of it, we all need to run up and give him a hug and say, hey, this was fake, but not all of it was fake. Like the friendships that you forged, that we created, that's all real. That's real human experience, and that's not going away.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight with this Q&A with everyone's obsession, jury duty. Please join me in welcoming tonight's guest. He is, of course, a fantastic actor who has received 5 SAG Award nominations for his work in projects like Hairspray, 30 Rock, and Dead to Me. I am being completely serious when I say he is now enjoying the role of a lifetime playing James Marsden on jury duty. Please welcome James Marsden.
How's it going? All right.
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations. Actually, 2 great series, because you're also playing an entitled actor on Party Down.
Yeah. I'm starting to see a common thread with all this stuff.
You don't want to be too good at those roles, you know? Like
No. I like to keep them guessing that it's not really me, but it actually is. That's the problem. Enough of this acting stuff.
Right.
Let's just go right into being. I forgot about that. The bit on Party Down was sort of sending up the kind of Hollywood superhero guy too. Yeah. I'm starting to see a trend.
Well, this is an audience of your fellow SAG-AFTRA actors.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah.
So I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
Boy, I think I got my SAG card on The Nanny.
No way. With SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher?
I think I was Taft-Hartley'd into SAG through 2 episodes of The Nanny. I was on the pilot episode. This was, by the way, you guys weren't even born yet, I don't think. I'm looking at here like no one was. This was 1993. I had 2 lines. I was Eddie the kissing waiter. Very specific. I was caught kissing the daughter at a dinner party on the balcony, and I was asked to go home. And I said, okay. And that was it. And they brought me back for another episode, and I think I got my SAG card with that.
Oh.
And since then, it's just been all I can do to make sure no one takes it away. I don't trust anything now.
In fairness, you knew jury duty was fake, unlike poor Ronald.
I did, but I remember, I've never done much improv, and I was nervous going into it, and I called Ben Schwartz, who's the voice of Sonic and does this amazing improv stuff. I said, I'm getting ready to step into something that I might regret. I don't know if I'm going to be good. I don't know if I'm going to screw the whole thing up or not, but here's the conceit. And it feels like a prank show, like a hidden camera thing, but it's not really that. The producers are saying it's not. That's a hero's journey for someone, which it did turn out to be that. But Ben goes, make sure you're not the one they're punking. And I was like, oh, that's actually, I didn't even think about that.
Brilliant.
Because it was such an experience for me as much as it was for Ronald.
Yeah.
I know you guys just saw the first episode, but
I suspect most people here have seen the whole show. Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah.
No, it was really crazy because it was like, okay, this is even you could argue that it's ethically questionable. You're keeping somebody in the dark for 3 weeks of their life, and at the end going, hey, we're celebrating you though. It's all good, right? Here's $100,000. Bye. So I was talking with the producers and Jake Szymanski, the director, through the whole thing, saying it's important to me that, I got excited about. I love Christopher Guest. I love Larry David. I love Larry Sanders' show. Like scripted improvisational shows where it's like there's no scripted dialogue, but there's scripted circumstances and comedy beats that you're supposed to push was really exciting to me, to get in a room with a lot of young improv guys and girls and mess around. But I wasn't ready for him because you have to be you gotta be nimble and able to pivot if you want him to take a left turn and he takes a right, you gotta take a right with him, and you kind of go with the flow, the whole thing. So it was definitely felt experimental. That thing I just said in the I said in mourning for my career, yes. I was actually feeling that at certain moments. Like, what am I doing? What it felt like you're really doing fucking jury duty, where you're like stuck in a box for 3 weeks and there's no makeup and hair. There's nothing glamorous about it at all. And it was kind of fun to, kind of get lost in that, but it was also like, boy, are two people going to see this show? It's like, what's Amazon Freebie? I don't know what that is.
That's freeing, though, if you think no one's watching.
Yeah, but I think that's part of it. To be honestly, it was liberating. It was like the feeling that maybe no one is watching means I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah,
and it was like I can be. Yeah, I got excited about playing this character of James Marsden. Which I never thought that would be my ticket to sitting up here talking in front of you guys. But I got excited about lampooning, your sort of cliche Hollywood entitled petulant brat, that thinks that the only conversation to have is, whatever his next project is, and everything should come back to him, and then you put it in the backdrop of jury duty, or like, all those great equalizers out there, like the DMV. We all have to stand in line for the DMV. And no one gives a shit who he is.
Yeah.
And it drives him crazy.
Yeah.
Like I love that. And it was fun to kind of send myself up, I guess, in some ways. But yeah, it was not like anything I've ever experienced before, because I'm used to scripted, comedy, drama, all that stuff. And it's like, there were 7 scripts, but it was all stage direction. It was like Marsden gets up and tries to get out of jury duty by saying he's going to be a distraction. That was kind of it. And I get to make up whatever I want on top of it, which is fun.
Did you have rehearsals, kind of?
We did.
Yeah.
The other actors had about a week, 2 weeks of rehearsals, and I had 3 days of rehearsal. I just kind of got thrown into it because I was doing Party Down, actually, and it went late. So, I just kind of had to roll with it, and I was terrified.
This is actually because you invoked the great Ben Schwartz, who, by the way, if you're going to ask for
hold
improv
on.
advice,
The great Ben Schwartz.
he is, with no exaggeration.
Where's my phone? Let's
He's literally the best improviser I've ever seen.
No, he's unreal.
Improv is insane. My favorite, and I promise we won't just talk about Ben this whole time.
No, feel free. He is, in fact, the great Ben Schwartz.
Great. My favorite part in the whole series is when Ronald comes back and he is telling you he's seen Sonic, and then he invokes Ben, and your expression is so classic.
It was perfect because, like, I mean, you just
couldn't
don't
have
know what he's going to say.
anticipated that.
You have
Yeah.
no idea what he's going to say. I don't know anything about him other than he's 6'6". He's a solar panel contractor out of San Diego, and they're like, have fun. And like, you have no idea I didn't know if he was going to know who I was. It was great that he didn't at first. It was great that he said, I heard that was a bad movie. I mean, it was comedy gold for me to like, because if he was a sycophant and was like, oh, I love all your stuff and this, that, I mean, I could be like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's my stuff that I've been in. It's pretty good. But it was way more fun to be cocksure and then have him be like, oh, I heard that was terrible.
Yes.
And you're like, so then it's like you're kind of piecing yourself back together, but it was a perfect prelude of getting into where we were going to go, which was like nobody cares who Marsden is, and the sort of the laughs that come from that.
Yeah.
And so the next day he was like, "I'm so sorry, I saw the movie and it was great," and I'm like, "Okay, I feel better now." And you didn't tell me Ben Schwartz was in it. I'm like, "Yeah, but he's kind of like I forget he's in it really. He's kind of a forgettable voice." I was there on set every day, like a real actor.
My friend got really upset. He was like, there's no way he doesn't know who James Marsden is, and he knows who Ben Schwartz is.
He was a big Parks and Rec fan. And so
but Kirk
Fox is in it, and we had poor Kirk. He was one of the funniest people in our, like, when we were doing the rehearsals. The shit he was coming up with was so brilliant. And they had to tell him to dial it all back because Ronald came out and said he was a big Parks and Rec fan. So he had to kind of fade into the shadows a bit. Otherwise, he'd be like, wait, Marsden's here. The guy from Parks and Rec is here. Yeah. Mecky Leeper from Secret Life of College Girls. Yeah. And so we were very cautious about tipping our hand. But yeah, Kirk's amazing. And yeah, Ronald, I can't imagine this thing working with anybody else. I mean, we really got lucky finding him because he's such a pure-hearted, kind soul, and made me feel terrible about the stuff I had to do to him.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that because what you do is so brilliant. You walk. Okay, see, Ben Schwartz is great. You're brilliant. So
I'll take it.
Yes.
Let's get him on the phone.
you have to walk such a fine line between playing, this spoiled brat, and yet still believable, because we know those people. None of it is unbelievable. But sometimes I feel like you have to walk it back a little, because like there's a couple times where I feel like you almost push Ronald too far, and you have to read that.
Yeah, and because he's such a good human being, he's so empathic that if anyone was uncomfortable around him, he would put his arm around them, and so there were moments where we had characters that were constructed to, and circumstances that were constructed to make him uncomfortable, not in a sense that we're trying to make him the butt of the joke, because I was very clear from the beginning. I was like, I don't want to be in a prank show, I don't want to do anything cruel or mean spirited, but there are moments that we're going to make him, they were going to challenge him, I guess, test him, like Todd with the stupid chair pants and slipping the notes under the door, right? And he just put his arm around Todd and like got him a makeover and all this
Showed
stuff.
him Bug's Life.
Showed him a Bug's Life. It was like the sweetest kind of thing. So I had to, the dance was, how do I keep him close to me? Because I had to be the catalyst for so many of the moments we were going for, and I needed to have him as a pal. So there were moments where hours and hours of me just being normal James Marsden, where I wasn't the sort of, the self-involved, egocentric prick. Just a little bit of it, because it's just really me. And I would just have a genuine connection with the guy and have real conversation about his life, his family, and of course, none of that makes the show because it's not as interesting. So they would cut that out, and then I would bring him in, and then I would do something horrible. And that's what ended up in the show, of course. But then as soon as I would do that, he would move away from me. Like he didn't want to be associated with, an entitled Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
If I was being mean or unfair or selfish, or just making other people feel uncomfortable. Just because he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
And so then I'd have to, like the you guys have seen it. So the party,
The
where
cake,
I throw the cake.
yes.
It was written that like Marsden comes in like foam the runway. He is coming in hot. He throws the cake, pops every balloon, destroys all of the everything, throws cake at people. I think it was like a full-on tantrum. But as soon as I flipped the cake, I saw out of the corner of my eye Ronald kind of hang his head. Aww. And I was like, I can't do this to this guy. Because he was upset that I was upset. And he was upset that I was ruining somebody's birthday. So I was like, okay, well, no TV and no laughs is worth messing with somebody's human experience like this. It's just not worth it. So I left, and I thought, okay, I was supposed to just leave and be gone. And I talked to Nick Hatton, the producer who worked on Borat, and Jake Szymanski, the director. I said, I have to go back. I have to apologize, but maybe we can sort of thread some comedy back into that. Like I'll go back and bring another cake, but it'll be like it's a girl cake, so you have a little button of the comedy, but the gesture and the intention was, like, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up.
You sort of see in the final episode when they're showing like a look behind the scenes that it looks like you pushed him too far in that moment. I think he even says like, I'm done.
Yeah, he said, I'm not. Yeah. That guy's not welcome back. Wow. And I'm like, good for you. Because I should not have been invited back. And I thought too when I was doing it, I was like, well, I'm the ass. I'm the jackass who thinks that this party is a pity party for losing out on Lone Pine, right? The laughs it should be at me, but it was. I just couldn't get past the feeling that it made him bummed out.
Yeah.
Because like we can surround him with all these crazy circumstances and scripted beats, and he can kind of roll his eyes or kind of laugh it off. But if anything actually affects him and makes him nervous or makes him upset, I was not going for that.
This may sound like a strange question, but because you're also playing these characters, there's sort of a show within a show. For example, a lot of the actors, you see scenes without Ronald where they're sort of keeping up sort of what is a workplace comedy in places. So I'm thinking of the soaking scene where you're jumping on the bed for, Are you, because Ronald's not there, are you laughing during it, or are you staying in character? Are you? You
kind of just stayed in character.
You have
it was
to,
like,
I think. Yeah.
I mean, I was of course laughing because it was just me and Mekki and Edie, and just such funny actors. But it was kind of on the fly, and we did it in sequence. It wasn't like we're coming back another day and getting a special shot of that. was like we left Ronald and went in that room and shot that immediately right after. So it was all, we didn't have to, because it was the 3 cast members, but we just, and he's in there giggling his head off going, what's going on in that room?
Well, that's why I wondered if that was why you did it, for plausible deniability, if he came in or something.
You had to run a tight ship that way. Like there couldn't be any, like you couldn't fake anything.
Yeah.
Like, you had to go through with it. And that's when we shot the soaking scene. And he could have said, I'll help you.
Oh my God, I didn't even
And
think
he
about
didn't.
that.
Thank God, it was right out of the gates. He was like, as long as I don't have to help you soak, you do your thing.
There's one question I really want to know, but an audience member asked it better, so I'm actually going to credit them. Sarah Oliver, way in the back there, wants to know, what was the protocol for the inevitability of breaking or laughing during the inappropriate moments? Maybe you didn't laugh.
Well, no, we did. There were moments where we wanted to break. Namely, the one that I remember vividly was when Sean shows the really terrible animation, and they didn't show it to us beforehand, so we didn't know what the hell it was going to look like. And it was some janky Roblox, like it's glitchy, and you could see all of us like. But it was okay because we would have laughed in court at that anyway. But I lost my shit that day. I was like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And but then there were other moments where I think the hardest part was in the deliberation room and in the courtroom. You could kind of if you started to laugh, you could kind of sneak out or go to the bathroom or kind of go get some potato chips or something. The group interviews at the end of each day where we're sat like this, facing the cameras, and fucking Ron Song, who plays the Korean, is so damn funny, and he's plays this character who talks really slow, and he didn't even get he has a business where he has gumball machines and stickers. It's so stupid. So anytime he started talking, it was like, and he was right in front of me, so the cameras are pointed at me, and he just was so damn funny.
Yeah.
And I was like, and Ronald's right here, so I had to pinch myself to as an actor, doing Sonic with Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey will
And Ben
come
Schwartz.
and Ben Schwartz, the great Ben Schwartz. Jim will come in and will hit you with 100 things you didn't anticipate, and the last thing you want to do is screw up a 2-shot with you and Jim when he does something brilliant. And you screw it up because you're laughing. So I got used to I have to create pain. I don't know if this is a tactic that you guys use, but I'll go home with bruises on my left thigh, because if it'll keep you from laughing if the pain overrides the humor. So I'm pinching myself and anyway, yeah, it's a little. It works for me, but it's.
I got to go back and watch Sonic again in a whole new light and watch those scenes.
Yeah. But there were moments where I think it was the fear factor of, if we laugh, this whole thing goes down the toilet.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to be the one to spoil the whole thing and upend it. So we were all very cautious about getting him to the finish line, which is 3 weeks. We had to. It was a long time, and I knew that if I laugh at the wrong spot or get too comfortable, or if anybody gets too comfortable, he's going to get suspicious and be like, "What is this?" And there were a couple moments he did.
I wondered.
Someone called a cast member by their real name, and he was like, and he's really switched on. Of course, he's like, "Hold on, we don't have a Cassandra in here. Who's the Cassandra?" And then Sheeds, who plays our bailiff, was the other person who just made me crack up all the time, because I'm sat as a stupid alternate. I didn't even make the jury, and I'm facing Rashida Sheeds, who's our bailiff, and I could see anytime her lips started to curl up, is her face just is like the sun when she smiles. It's just and it was it's like church giggles. One person starts laughing, and then everyone starts laughing. But it was tough. But I think everyone wanted to, finish it.
Yeah.
Let's see if this works. Let's get him to the finish line first, and then see if it's even funny.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking that I was so dead set on this has to be. We have to protect this guy. By the end of it, we all need to run up and give him a hug and say, hey, this was fake, but not all of it was fake. Like the friendships that you forged, that we created, that's all real. That's real human experience, and that's not going away. Because last thing I wanted to do was finish and go, hey man, it was great to meet you. Sort of. I gotta go. We got you. Hope you enjoy your check. Because I'm like, that's not me as a human being. I have to I got to know this guy. And he's a guy that we all could be more like. I mean, he's really, really, his humanity just I think is the reason why this show works as well as it does.
1,000%. Yeah. I know people, myself included, who were so worried about him. And he's actually credited you a lot for kind of helping him, I don't know if I want to say adjust back into society, but sort of deal with how weird this has all been.
Because we all put ourselves in his position, right? Like, what would I have done? I can't even take a surprise birthday party, let alone 3 weeks of... I mean, he said something really smart. He said, when someone said, did you ever think that this was, the absurd stuff that was happening was fake? And he said, the idea that this whole thing was fake is so much more absurd
Yes.
than anything that's happening in the courtroom. Like, that's way more preposterous, that this whole thing could be orchestrated for 3 weeks. So he was like, I just had to take the absurdity as it came.
Yeah.
But that was really smart. I thought, with that, the idea that the conceit of the whole thing was staged and completely fabricated around him was way more ludicrous.
I know this may sound strange, but I want to be very clear that you are playing a part here. And in addition to that, am I giving you too much credit? No, this is a crazy balancing act. You're not only playing this role. It's not scripted. You said you didn't really have much experience with improv. How do you sort of prepare to play yourself?
Well, like I said before, this sort of, I don't want to say brand of comedy, but Christopher Guest, Waiting for Guffman, Spinal Tap, Best in Show, that kind of, where there's a foundation of, there are story arcs, there are story ideas, but no real dialogue scripted. You have an architecture that you can go in and treat like a playground, and you get to go in and armed with ideas of what your character is going to say that day, or if Ronald says this or does that, then maybe I can say this. And it was fun for me because I've always wanted to do that kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Which is get out of your head, get your mind off of the script, because I'll see the pages in my head. If I start to forget my dialogue, I can actually see the script page, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's my line. And sometimes it's good because it can save you in situations where you forget your dialogue. My friends are like, how do you do that? Like, the only time I forget a line is when you turn the page. Like, I can see it. And I said, yeah, but sometimes it takes you away from really connecting with eye contact with the person you're sharing a scene with. And there's something about being in a pressure cooker of a situation like this was, where you're in a room for 5 hours, and you're tasked with several things, but two of the biggest things are, one, don't screw this up. Don't upend the whole thing and, give the whole thing away. Two, be funny. And there were plenty of, the writers of this show really are the unsung heroes of this whole thing. I know everyone says this is improv, but there was so much of this that was already sort of baked in the structure of these scenes, right? Like, it was, I got the easy part, which is to go in and have fun making fun of this sort of ass character that I'm playing, and that was a blast. But they had a lot of stuff already carved out, like me throwing a tantrum at the birthday party, and and me reading the Lone Pine thing and going into character and trying the method thing, and that was all in the script.
Yeah.
But there was no dialogue. It was I got to say whatever I wanted to say. But
none. They didn't even give you a couple suggested lines or anything.
Yeah, we would talk. We would go in an hour and a half before Ronald would get there every day. And we would, as the cast and the producers and everyone, we'd talk about the day, what the beats are, and then we would go and hide. No joke, around the corner in some Huntington Park, south of LA, with a walkie-talkie, and okay, Ronald, he's arrived, okay, send Marsden in his car, and I would go in, and it was 4.5 hours of staying in character.
Wow.
but it sounds like that was such an exhausting thing, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It really was fun. Like, I liked this character too much. And like, I get to say all the things I normally might want to say, but I can't. I feel like this is what Larry David feels like when on Curb. But yeah, I wasn't, I would get excited about doing this kind of comedy. So at the end of every day, I'd go home and think about what we were doing the next day, and I'd like, okay, maybe I can say this, and this would be funny. And there were talks with, like you said, like beforehand and after, with Jake Szymanski, the director, and all of our brilliant writers, and we would just chat about the next day, like, okay, this is tomorrow. Is the day where you come in and you do the audition with Ronald or whatever. What kind of crazy shit can you do in the audition thing with him? And I said, I'm not going to turn the screws to him, because I knew at the time that they were wanting me to kind of make him do silly stuff in the audition.
Gotcha.
I was like, no. I'll make a jackass of myself, but
Right.
I don't want to embarrass him, because he's such a good guy. And I still did a little bit. But I was like, this is a great opportunity to like create fake acting exercises.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an actor, so he wouldn't know what we do normally. Like, oh, actually, if you stand on your head and hold a parakeet in your left hand and pee on yourself, it actually loosens you up for the scene. Like, you could just create whatever you want to create, and he'd be like, okay, whatever makes you comfortable. So like, anyway.
He was a good
didn't do
scene
that.
partner, actually, for the read. I was impressed.
He was.
Yeah.
He was really, there was real conviction there. He really
Yes.
cared about helping me. He cared about the integrity of the scenes. Like, I mean, I was like, this is brilliant. This is like Shakespeare. And then by the end of the audition, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I didn't even read it. It just does. I got bored. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Tell me what, So like, again, just being a lame jackass. But he was actually like, I think there were moments where in the audition I was doing something really, like, the worst thing as an actor to do is to muscle your way into an emotional scene.
Yeah.
The worst. It's never going to work. Don't ever muscle your way into an emotional scene. You either feel it or you don't. And you got to trust that what you're saying is honest, and the tears will come or they won't. But as long as you mean it, that's the most important thing. But I did a take with him where I was like, like really going for it. And like, God, I must this time, And he was like, and I think I just let him off the hook a little bit. I was kind of like, I feel like that was a little too big. And he goes, yeah. He's like, I don't think you need to do that. There's so much that's not in the show that was cut out. I mean, there are so many gems. I hope they create a whole other series about all the other stuff.
I would love just a behind the scenes.
Susan,
series,
who plays Barbara.
Oh, I love Barbara.
The old Barbara. She had a whole story about how she would never stop talking about all the old rock and roll Hall of Famers that she slept with. So she's always like, I went down on Van Morrison, and he was a lover. Let me tell you. And I'm like, how is that not in the show? It's so genius. There's so much great stuff. And so again, a testament to the writers. They wrote all of this sort of outlines in paragraphs in the scripts that just had me howling. And then you get there when the cameras start rolling, and you kind of take the baton, and they're like, hey, here's what it's about. Have fun. And it's like, it's just the greatest feeling.
Was there really a Lone Pine script, or did you sort
No.
of? Yeah. Well, I thought maybe there might be for, again, plausible deniability.
I will say, one of our writers wrote a 3-page Lone Pine scene. It was meant to emulate, like, what was the movie with Bradley Cooper where he played an American Sniper,
Yes.
or Stillwater with Matt Damon?
Oh, yes.
It was like supposed to be one of those movies, right? Like super overly pretentious,
Important.
not a pretentious, but like very important award season movie, And so they.
We're all thinking it. It's
Right. So they wrote a scene that kind of, was in that flavor,
Yeah.
I guess. But the rest of the script was like it was like a Harry Potter script or something.
No
It was
way.
like that they just wedged this scene into. Yeah.
That's so fun, because I would have believed if they had written a whole script just so that, and in case Ronald looked, you guys had to be so meticulous.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I did think of that.
And you're begging him to look, more or less, the way you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't share this with you.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I had to be careful about that, but this is confidential. It's called Lone Pine.
It's not on red pages, though,
No
so you
one
could have
gives a
copied
shit.
it.
Right. Yeah. I wish I could. God, I wish I could tell you who the director is. But, I just can't. And they're like, we don't care.
You've done so many different genres. I mean, literally every genre. You've done musicals and drama and comedy. You've been a literal Disney prince. I'm sort of curious. This is a whole new set of challenges. What has been your most challenging role, either logistically or just something? Now that we just made fun of deeply emotional scenes.
Which I knocked out of the park, didn't I? Yeah. I love comedy. I always feel somehow more comfortable with it. I'm not as comfortable playing roles where when I first got into Hollywood, it was like they kind of wanted to cast me as that guy. Like you're always in a Letterman's jacket or like you're going to the prom, like it was like the leading man. Again, I'm not like, but I always saw myself as more of a character actor. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be an SNL regular when I was growing up in Oklahoma. I wanted to be a goofy, guy who does impressions.
I can't believe you've never done SNL.
Yeah, no, I was there a couple of weeks ago for the very first time, and
Really?
And I was like, when I was doing 30 Rock with Tina Fey, I was like, my dream would be to be on SNL. She's like, oh, I think you're gonna be on SNL. I'm like, no, like as a cast regular. She's like, well, I feel like you're kind of getting to do that with your career anyway. You're jumping all over different genres and all this kind of stuff. So I love comedy, but the stuff I get nervous about, I just did this movie with Michael Keaton, and he directed it, and I played his son, and Al Pacino's in the movie. It's like very much not like Jury Duty.
Yes.
It was a heavy, film noir adult film. It was just like a really well written story, and I read it, and I usually when I read a script, I'll look at it through the lens of the character I'm playing, which I try to not to do. I try to just take it as an experience and like see the movie in my head. And I did when I read the script. I was like, I didn't look at it through the lens of the character. I want to be a part of this. And I chatted with Michael, and like he cast me in the role. And then I went back and read the script, and I went, oh shit, this is going to require a lot like heavy lifting, and I haven't exercised that muscle in a while. And I was just like, well, get after it. And that was nerve-wracking for me, because it was, if my performance didn't work, the whole movie doesn't work. And I would tell you the setup of the story, but trust me that if I sucked, the whole movie sucked. But
You'd
that
love to
makes
tell
me
us, but
nervous.
you can't.
What's that?
You can't tell us. You'd love to tell us, but you can't.
I'm not. Yeah. God, I want to tell you. Yeah, it's a total fake movie with with Michael Keaton. I just made up. No. Yeah. So you asked what makes you nervous or insecure. It's like I don't know. That's an emotion I've gotten so comfortable with being an actor. It's like we just all that way.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who rolls into set. It's like I'm the best.
Fake James Marsden.
You thought that take was good? Wait to the next one. I mean, we're all going like. I remember Ian McKellen when we were doing the first X-Men movie, and we were doing a scene in the Statue of Liberty. He's going, saying all this stuff and shouting, and the director was like, tone it down, this and that, and he had to walk off camera and walk towards me, and he came over and he hugged me. He goes, I'm so fired. If Ian McKellen is feeling insecure about his ability, then we all are as actors. It's just part of woven into our DNA, and to me, it just it keeps you. I don't know. It just keeps you on edge. I mean, it can get to a place where it's an unhealthy thing. Like you do want to be like, no, I'm ready. I'm prepared. I will be good. I want it to be good. I'll give you my everything. But sometimes you're just like, I'm a fraud. And I don't know any actor that doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
We all feel like the imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. Because, like I said before, you know, if I was a carpenter, you know, and I was taught how to build a house, I'd wake up in the morning and I'm like, can you build a house? Yep. But as an actor, you're like, am I going to have it today? Am I going to have that focus? Am I that little flame inside of us that, you know, a little gust of wind comes by and can blow it out? I know that sounds really pretentious, but like that's kind of it. Like, am I going to be in tune with what's going on? Am I going to be interesting? Am I going to make the right choices? And my most nervous moment is always a few days before I start work on something.
Right.
Because no decisions or no choices have been made yet to concrete what you're doing with that role. So you're kind of like, well, shit, there's still time to maybe do something different. I don't know. But once I start playing this character, like you're kind of in it. And then after a couple of days, it's like, okay, they didn't fire me.
But every actor's been fired, I think, at some point.
Oh,
so it
yeah.
has to happen. Michael Keaton's been fired.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
famously.
we all have. It's a prerequisite. We excel at rejection, and no, but it's a very delicate thing, and like you're asking somebody to do something, to sort of reach down to the depths of their soul and pull out their heart, and leave it out there in this scene, and then they go, okay, hold on, cut. We got to move a light, and like, and like, oh, that's lunch.
Yeah.
We're gonna break for lunch, and we're gonna come back. And like, this is the least. It's
not
hard.
conducive to
right.
like, creativity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you do get other takes and you get other chances at it, but it really does. The people, I marvel at the actors that can just that have that focus and they can just stay in it. I'm too like flighty, and anything can distract me. So I guess with comedy, it's easier because it feels like there's not less stakes. In some ways, there's more stakes because you got to make it funny, but I guess there's a playfulness to the comedy. It's like I get excited about going to work and going, what ridiculous thing can I do or say today? Whereas with something is like really demands conviction and like I said on this Keaton thing, like heavy lifting, like you're crying and you're wringing, you're wringing yourself out over this. It's like, am I gonna have it today, or am I just gonna be like, and Dead to Me. Those ladies were like crying every day, and they're just were put through it. And the third season, Liz was like, "Your turn."
Right.
And I was like, "Where are we going with this?" And it got dark. It got dark for the character, and I was like, do I have it? For me, I was like, I got maybe one or two takes where I can full on like feel it and cry. But I can't do it from this angle and this angle and this angle and this angle and this angle for 6 hours.
And it's hard on the body.
Well, yeah, because you bring your own experience to it, and you want it to feel authentic. And when you pull those strings inside you, and you actually are feeling it, it's torturous if you have to do it more than 3 or 4 times, and then you're just like, I'm out. I've got nothing left. I can't do this anymore, which is why I've learned over time to be like, if you do have a big emotional scene, I'd go to the cinematographer and the director and say, hey, can we shoot the close-up first? And then, not that the scene should be about me, but this is, if it's an important scene and you're breaking down or whatever, it's like, can we get that first? And then we can go out to the master.
Smart, yeah.
Yeah, because like you waste it on the master and nobody's going to see it.
I do want to take a couple quick questions from the audience. We have one from Luke Hudson. Where's Luke? Well, there we go. Wants to know, what's your favorite movie that you've done?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't look at any of my stuff and think, wow, I really just knocked that out of the park. I think of movies that were fun to, like the process that was a blast. Like Hairspray was so much fun. That was just a party every day, and everyone was just loving being there and singing and dancing. Enchanted was fun. I read that script, and I was like, I know exactly what to do with this character. Big, silly puffy sleeves and playing a prince. X-Men was fun to be a part of, but it wasn't like I wasn't really doing much acting in those movies. It's weird that was the thing I was known for the most, but it was like, oh yes, I recognize your cheekbones. Or like, I don't recognize your talent or your ability. I still have yet to see that, but But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was a lot of fun. It was Jury Duty was, again, I thought 3 people would see it.
Yeah.
It was shot out of a cannon as soon as it aired. And I was in New York, and the next day I was like, oh, I need to post about the premiere of Jury Duty. And I went and got coffee the next day, and every other person on the street was like, oh, the jury show, amazing. And it was on TikTok everywhere. But it was a really rewarding, fun experience for me. And not to bring it back to the thing we're here talking about, but it really was. It was like I got to scratch that itch of being in what I felt like a Christopher Guest show, So it was great, but it was terrifying because it was like, this is not going to work. It's morally questionable, and I don't know if this is even funny. I have no idea. But yeah, best project. I don't really know. Yeah, I don't have to think about that.
Is Jordan here? Jordan. Jordan wants to know if you've finished Sonic 3 yet.
Good question. The answer is no. We're a little delayed. We're supposed to be shooting it this fall in London, and should be fun. But we'll see. We'll see. We were supposed to start in July, and obviously, everything that's going on with the writer's strike and everything's pushing it a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna be wheels up this fall, hopefully.
Sonic is, I would compare it to Jury Duty in that it has no right to be as good as it is, because I don't know the Sonic universe at all, and that movie made me cry. When you're holding the great Ben Schwartz as Sonic, I literally am weeping.
Well, I that's very nice of you to say, and I had the same reservation stepping into it because I'd done a couple of other movies where I star opposite an animated rodent of sorts. Like I did this movie Hop, where it was like me
Hop.
and the Easter Bunny, and I thought if I take another movie, again, not to sound like ungrateful, because Sonic was a giant thing, but before the movie was made, I was like, am I just going to be the guy who's in movies opposite animated, hedgehogs and stuff? But I knew the IP was really popular. I knew that obviously a big video game, and I remember watching when we were at the premiere. It was me and it was Ben, the great Ben Schwartz, Tika, and Jim Carrey. And about 20 minutes into the movie, we turned and looked at each other like. And I don't think because you just always set your expectation bar a little low. Like, I hope this is good.
Yeah.
But I don't get precious about the work that I've done or carry it around in some sort of, some importance or whatever you want to call it. Like, you do the work and you kind of move on, you cross your fingers and hope that the movie turns out great, or the TV show, and if it's a success, you're like, okay, cool, well, I didn't see that coming. But Sonic was a big surprise. It actually played to kids, and it also played to adults. It still had this sort of high octane, action movie kind of elements to it, and it was just really well done. Yeah.
It's really good. It was.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be great either.
I mean, I just didn't know.
It's okay. You thought, just like Ronald Gladden, that you heard it was a terrible movie.
No, actually, I heard everyone telling me it was wonderful, and I was like, come on.
Yeah, I'm still doing that. I've seen it 100 times. Like, come on, is it really?
And it's surprisingly dark and edgy in places, like the cake. Yeah. And part 2, Natasha Rothwell, is it? So good in it. Yeah. Now I'm a Sonic fan. Look at that.
Yeah.
Who knew?
No, you just don't know. I mean, like when we were shooting The Notebook, I remember everyone thinking like, this is so cheesy.
Yeah.
But everyone was just giving it their all.
Yeah.
And it was like, it doesn't have to be cheesy. It can be, it's a Nicholas Sparks novel, but what an incredible cast, and Nick Cassavetes directing. It was like, there's no such thing as, I don't know. I'm like, I just feel like you can make anything into a great film if you choose to, to really give it that importance. And that was like, okay, well, this will be a fun little romantic movie to do. And now it's like our Casablanca.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's going a little too far.
No. I think
Right,
it's
guys?
apropos. Yeah.
It's like custom. It's better, right? It's in color.
I mean, I would also say I often use 27 Dress as an example of like when
yeah,
a
that's
rom-com works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does everything right. It really elevates it, and that could have gone wrong so many ways.
Oh, so many ways, and like you said, 27 Dresses. That's our On the Waterfront. For a new generation.
I'm not
right?
going to argue, actually.
Streetcar Named Desire.
Are you Brando or Mole in that one?
Yeah. Which one? A Streetcar or On the Waterfront?
On the
Picking all
Waterfront,
Brando
yes.
movies. Yes. Name some other James Marsden movies.
But I feel like
What's the new Godfather? Hop.
I like Hop. Actually, there's a movie. If I could recommend something, there's a movie called 10th and Wolf that you did. That
Sure, that's anything that taking place in any of the classics.
No, but like I remember it was one of the first things I saw you in when I was like, this guy's good. Like, yeah, and it was like kind of a small indie movie, and I'd only seen you in the X-Men, and
Yeah.
I was like, it was like turning point in a
Yeah,
weird
Bobby
way.
Moresco wrote that, and he wrote $1 Million Baby, and it was a really cool movie with Giovanni Ribisi and a big cast. But it was like a kind of a gangster film, I
Yeah.
guess. But do yourselves a favor tonight, every one of you, don't go check that movie out. She may like it. It's okay. There's a reason why none of you in the room know what this is.
Well, again, I want to say that I think Jury Duty is not just a great, I don't even know if it would qualify as a reality show. I think it's the best comedy of the year. I think it's the best series on TV right now. And a lot of that is due to you. Thank you so much for being
Except
here.
that's very kind of you. I think we got really lucky with Ronald, and he's the beating heart of this whole thing. And through the process, it was like, it's either going to, it always felt like an either or. It was like, it's either going to be really funny and maybe kind of mean, or it's going to be a hero's journey and we're going to celebrate this guy and his humanity, and the comedy is going to be muted because of it. And somehow it worked that both of them were, that was like, they could both coexist. And I don't know how that happened, but it did work. And it's so wild that I'm sitting here talking about Jury Duty, this show that I was like, that's the end of my career. I swear to God, when I was doing it, I was like, boy. I remember David Bernad. So David Bernad, who produces The White Lotus, is a friend of mine. We did a movie called D-Train. Oh, that's one of my favorites, actually, that Mike White, who does White Lotus, he produced and wrote. And David was the one who brought me this concept of the show. And he's like, and it was Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupnitsky who created The Office. So it was like David, those two guys, Todd Schulman, who does all the Sasha stuff for Borat. I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this ambitious conceit, I'm in good company. But I remember telling David, I was like, who the hell were you going to get for this role? If I wasn't, because I almost backed out.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I've only had 3 days of rehearsal. I don't know if I'm going to be funny. I don't know if this is the right thing to do to this person. You need to get Eric Andre, or you need to get Nick Kroll, or somebody to come in here. And I was like, who were you going to get before me? And he's like, nobody. I think we were really just maybe going to do it without a celebrity. And I was like, okay, well, I think that was maybe a lie. I think he just wanted me to feel like I was the only choice for the thing. But I was really nervous about doing it. And sorry, I know we're going on and on and on, but like, I'm so happy that you all are here. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. And it makes me really proud. And you just never know what's going to hit. You just don't know what's going to work, because actors go in, we do our jobs, and then it's in the hands of the editors, it's in the hands of the directors, and you can cut together 10 different movies or 10 different shows with all the same performances, and you just don't know. So it's always a real surprise when something works, and I wish I could take credit for it. It's very kind of you to say, but I was just, a cog in the wheel in the whole thing.
Well, I think Ronald is in SAG now, so if we can get you guys to do another project.
Motherfucker, like, he's in SAG now?
I think
I love that everyone thinks he's such a super nice guy. So pure. Him and Ryan Reynolds hanging out with the Mint Mobile commercials.
What the hell?
It's become a lucrative venture for him.
Well, good for him.
Good for him. He is a good dude. He's a good dude.
Again, thank you so much. And as a reminder, all the episodes are on Amazon Freevee, but I think you all already know that. Thank you so much for being a great audience.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.